Welcome to today's 5 Good Minutes on the 10 Commandments. Today we'll be considering the 4th commandment with Russ Brasher.
It has been such a privilege getting a chance to host and be a part of the 5 Good Minutes podcast. As we arrive on day 5, concluding our time looking at the 4th commandment found in Exodus 20, verses 8 through 11, where God commands us to remember the Sabbath, keeping it holy. Here's what I'd like to say. It is going to take work to hold this command of God and remember to keep the Sabbath. And here's what I mean by that. If you're married, I think you can relate pretty well to this. It is one thing for a spouse. It is one thing for me as a husband to remember, one, that I'm married to my beautiful wife, Lindsay, but two, to remember our anniversary. And we know that it's not just enough as a spouse to say, hey, aren't you happy? Don't you love me? Let me show you how much I love you by just telling you that I remembered it's our anniversary. It's another thing to show our spouse that we remembered that it was our anniversary. And maybe for you, that's making sure that they wake up and there's flowers and a card or maybe a special gift, or you've gone out of your way to secretly plan a special date at her favorite restaurant or maybe a getaway. Something that indicates more than just your anniversary was on your mind, that you were thinking of them, that you were remembering your marriage, your love for one another, and you want to show your spouse that you remembered. I mean, that's what we've talked about, right? That God uses the word remember. And so we understand that remember is more than just mind, that it should inspire us to act and do. And so a good spouse doesn't just remember the anniversary, they do something to show that they remembered the anniversary. And when God calls us to remember the Sabbath, I want to maybe just give us 3 helpful ways of which we can go about keeping it holy as the command gives. And these are simple, practical, pretty general. They're there for more to you to maybe help craft it to something that fits you and where you're at with your faith and season of life. But the first is, I would say this, when it comes to remembering the Sabbath and keeping it holy, we need to remember that day, and it doesn't have to be Sunday, but it has to be a day where you are setting apart a day to stop, to rest, not to work, and worship God. And this can look different for so many people, but you're trying to set apart a day to dedicate to worship. For a lot of people, this is the weekend. This is a Saturday or a Sunday because it's typically when that's a day off for you in your day-to-day job. This is also a day, Saturday or Sunday, in which churches hold services. And one of the best ways to remember the Sabbath is to enter into community with other people and worship together. Another thing when it comes to worshiping God is making sure that on this day you are intentionally trying to spend time in God's Word, maybe going deeper than you normally would in God's Word. Spending intentional time in prayer, maybe extended time in prayer as a way to worship and set a day apart to remembering God and His goodness, His Son, and the ways in which He provides, even of providing a way for us to break free from the bondage of sin and be reconciled in relationship with Him. The second thing is, I would say, is kind of just how I talked about this idea of a good spouse not only remembers our anniversary, but puts a plan in place. I would say when it comes to remembering the Sabbath, something we need to do as believers is plan and prepare. You know as well as I know that if we're not careful, 7 days could fly by and every day becomes just another day if we don't look to plan and schedule in advance. Try to plan the rest of your week around this day of Sabbath. Whatever day that is that works for you. But in order to remember, it's going to require an action plan. So schedule this, make it a part of your life, and prioritize it. And finally, the last thing I would say is on this day, make sure it also includes things that are uplifting to you, activities that allow you to look at them and participate in them, and you can't help but worship God. Maybe that's visiting friends and family, writing in a journal, going for a walk, getting out into God's creation, finding a way to maybe serve those around you, calling or texting a friend that's been on your mind, or just, getting with your family and having a fun game night, or anything that allows you to truly enter into worship. So that's it. That's my three things. Make sure the way that we can keep it holy is make sure to worship God, plan and prepare to do so in the week, and make sure that includes things that are uplifting. It's been a privilege being a part of this. Thanks again for listening. Hope that you continue being an active participant in the 5 Good Minutes podcast. Have a great week.
Thanks for joining us. Be sure to check out all our content and podcasts on Orchard Hill Plus. You can find that and so much more on our website or the Orchard Hill app.